I don't think there's any sport quite like NASCAR. I mean, everything about it is so different than every other sport in America around it. And one of those ways is the stories and facts that most people never have heard of or forgotten of. And with that, I want to look at a few of these today. Ones that maybe the modern audience hasn't heard of, or maybe people haven't really thought of in a long time. Some people might remember them, but for newer fans, they might seem completely alien. So let's get to it. Leading off, let's look at the Independent NASCAR Party, because why the hell not in 2024 would we look at politics? This is an interesting one about Michael R. Williams, who was a state senator in Tennessee. He was part of the then Republican Party of Tennessee until about 2007, when he was upset with the direction the party was going, the morals, all of that, and decided to split, being an independent and leaving the Tennessee House split half and half, Republican and Democrat. And with that, he would have to list his party affiliation, to which he listed, and this is not a lie, independent NASCAR fan. Yeah, he lost a 2008 bid for re-election for the state Senate as the party independent NASCAR fan. But to be fair, he was really close, losing to the Republican nominee by a mere 246 votes of the 58,588 counted for his district. And it's just absolutely wild that NASCAR was so big at the time that anyone would have thought of that. I wonder what his political stances are today about the playoffs and next-gen cars at short tracks. We may never know this, but I gotta say it reminds me of some of the other wild things that happened at the time, like the rent is too damn high party.
The rent too damn high movement, the people I'm here to represent can't afford to pay their rent. They're being laid off right now as I speak. They can't eat breakfast, lunch, or dinner. Listen, someone's stomach, child's stomach just growled.
David Gilliland's Xfinity win. Now, I know a lot of older fans, or at least fans who have been around the last 20 years, do remember this, when David Gilliland drove for Clay Andrews and scored his one and only NASCAR win in the top 3 series. He did DNQ 2 of 6 attempts that year with the team, and nobody really saw this coming in any way. There were so many different drivers in the field, including the likes of Denny Hamlin, for instance, and Kevin Harvick, who would probably dominate every other race, but his car just would not go away. The team hit the setup big time for this race, and really the only thing holding this driver and team back was, well, the team part. This underfunded team had a bad pit crew and also some bad equipment, meaning every single stop he would lose 2 to 5 spots in the pits and then have to make them up. Now, it was pretty easy when there were a lot of cautions and you were able to make them up on restarts, but on the green flag stops, he'd lose seconds upon seconds to the rest of the pack. But he ended up getting back up slowly but surely up the running order, and at the end of the night, his car was so fast, he passed everyone, including Denny Hamlin and J.J. Yeley, who had the best cars out there, on speed alone. And with that, he would get one of the greatest underdog wins in NASCAR history and do nothing since then. And he later would graduate that year up to the 38 Yates Cup team, which was pretty interesting. The other thing about this race you might not remember is that at one point the broadcast actually got disrupted by the alarm system at Kentucky Speedway that went off in the middle of a different run with a bunch of racing going on. You can hear it for a solid 2 minutes on the broadcast.
Kevin Harvick, the 21 cars in the second spot, as we see more 3-wide racing coming off turn number 4. We have some sort of an alarm going off. Nothing to be alarmed about.
I think they're alarmed. They're all 3 wide, 3 rows back out there coming down the front straight away.
You think some of these drivers are keying that alarm there?
This one from Jay Ski. In 2002, there was a real debate about putting restrictor plates on NASCAR Busch Series, now Xfinity Series cars at Texas Motor Speedway. The backstory of this is that the speeds were getting really high, up into the higher 180s and lower 190s. And NASCAR was rumored to have wanted to put some plates on the cars. And Jim Hunter even said they were commenting on it and they were entertaining the thought of doing so. Ultimately, they didn't, though. And the cars would get about 5 miles per hour faster from the last Texas race in that 2002 weekend. A pretty memorable weekend, if I will say myself. And ultimately, while they didn't do that in 2002, and they didn't do that for a long time in any of the major series for the most part, this was sort of the seed, and it was talked about beforehand, the beginning grounds of what would one day lead to the 550 horsepower package that most of us hated. Another dominant streak that no one really ever has brought up, at least in my recollection, was Ford winning 32 straight races. Listen, domination was huge in early NASCAR, and if there wasn't somebody dominating, there wasn't somebody racing at that time. The disparity of competition was insane, especially when they had the likes of Richard Petty, Ned Jarrett, David Pearson coming along, as well as Junior Johnson and others. So it's not surprising that there was that long of a streak of domination, but one manufacturer kicking ass that long, that's something that even back then was major to look at. Junior Johnson kicked it off in the duels, which counted more as a race than they do today, and Ned Jarrett capped it off at the Volunteer 500 at Bristol, the race that would eventually become the Bristol Night Race. See, there were a couple drivers that ended up winning these races between February and July, these being once from Tiny Lund, AJ Foyt and Cale Yarborough, then 3 times from Fred Lorenzen, 4 times from Dick Hutcherson and Marvin Panch, 8 times from the eventual champion Ned Jarrett, this season being his final full-time season and his final championship in the middle of his prime. But the winningest Ford guy in that time was 10-time winner Junior Johnson, a man who got a fifth of his wins in his Cup career as a driver, all in this span. See, the reason for this was twofold. One was because of these good and great drivers, but another was because the rules that prevented Chrysler from competing that year, especially thanks to the banning of the Hemi engine. That's actually why Richard Petty didn't race for most of the year, spending this season racing in drag racing, where because of hitting a child, taking that child's life in a crash, he ended up almost quitting racing altogether. 1965 is an important season that not many look back on when it comes to the modern view. The last one is the most watched race ever, the 2006 Daytona 500. There are a couple reasons why, while 2006 wasn't the most watched season ever, this race was the most watched ever. One was because it was coming off of the most watched season ever, 2005, which was the peak of NASCAR's popularity in TV ratings and attendance. And also, NBC both had way better viewership for NASCAR with the 500 than Fox did at the time, and on top of that, they did a lot of advertising during the Winter Olympics. So what were the results? Well, almost 20 million average viewers, a rating of 11.3 nationwide, and almost 40 million total viewers were watching all or part of this race, peaking at well over 25 million who watched Jimmy Johnson cross the line for the win. It's not really about the quality of racing. This is one of the more forgotten Daytona 500s, so it's not really that you have to remember. It's more the advertising and momentum leading up to it. And no one had better advertising or momentum at that time heading into 2006 than NASCAR did. And you know what? It was a pretty memorable race when you actually watch back on it. And that's that. Those are some of the more interesting forgotten stories. Now I want to know what you think. Which one was your favorite? And which stories do you know that I didn't mention that not many people remember? Let me know down in the comments below. Maybe we'll make a follow-up to this. While you're at it, leave a like in this video, share this video, and subscribe to this channel for more great and fun NASCAR content. Thank you so much to all my channel members for your continued support. And be sure, if you're at Kansas, to come say hi. I'll be in the stands at least at some point during Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and I am more than willing to say hi and talk. So, if you see me, catch you next time, and if not, see you next video. Later, y'all.